Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another fabulous February, the month of love. Um, Alive. Welcome, everybody, and we'll talk about our lovely guests in a minute. But hello, Carson and Chris from Iowa, and Jeanette from California. Hello. Rain Readings. Who are you, Rain Readings? Hello, Trish. Good to see you. Vicky, hello, and Laura and Cindy and Sharon. Hi there. Oh, there. Hi there. Carson, your intro music always makes me want to dance. I dance when it's on. I'm like, woo! Yeah. Susan, hello. And Mikey from the North Shore area by O'Hare Airport. Hello, hello, hello. Hiya, Sarah. That's nice. Chris, hello, 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 everybody. Welcome in. Come on in and say hello. If you're new, let us know where you're watching from and how you found out about us. And if you just happen to be like, I don't know how I came across you, but hi there. Hi there. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have to tell you that my guest, Sarah, is an amazing person. We met on the TikTok. And on TikTok, we just started to chat a little bit. And she took a workshop of mine, and I found out that she does the exact work that I do. And she's been taking different classes with different teachers, and we've talked about stuff. We've done workshops together. She's introduced me to some amazing people, and Trish being one of them. And I'm just so glad to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I always have a lot of fun when we get to hang out. So
It is so much fun. And hello, Chris and Lori and Michelle Buckley. How are you? How are you? How are you? How are you, Michelle? So Sarah, how long have you been doing psychic mediumship?
yeah, so it's kind of a long story. I'll make it short, but for me,
Barking on the tree.
Probably gonna get some barking on my end too, so you're good. For me, my abilities came on super strong when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I didn't really understand it. I felt like it was kind of something that was happening to me, not something I understood really. And I kept that as I grew up into my teenage years. And it wasn't until I was about 17 or 18 that I was like, I need to figure out really what's going on here. And I researched as much as I could and really kind of started to develop and take it seriously. And I'm 26 for reference.
So you've been doing this since you were 1?
Right. Since I came out of the womb, actually. So
out of the womb.
Nobody has more years than me.
Right. Okay. I put myself on mute while Willow had her barking spasm.
That's okay.
And Emmy Scamahorn, I know. Hello, hello, hello. And hey, Jill. Good. And Brooke says, I found out because I love Sarah. That's awesome. I'm excited that you're here. Thanks for being here. So an important part of our work is dealing with loved ones that are missing their loved ones, that their loved ones are no longer with us. And I know that you and I both have personal stories that we can share about that. How do you handle someone who is heavy in the grief process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, number one, I think you have to, me personally, I come from a place of understanding. Like you said, we both have gone through our losses. So really it's kind of approaching people where they are, meeting people where they are, right? And letting people have a safe space to express what they're feeling. Because some people, at home, at work, whatever it is, they might not even have that. They might not have the space to express their grief or to really feel it. So that's kind of a major thing for me, just meeting you where you're at and allowing you to feel what you need to feel.
So true. And I think it's important to recognize for everyone that everyone has their own process. It's not like at 3 months you should be here, at 6 months you should be here, and a year you should be here. I think we deal with things each differently. I mean, I could have an amazing day and something or some memory or even a word comes across, and it will take me back. Now, mom's been gone 24 years in April, and dad will be 23 in July. It could take me back to that day, and it makes me feel as if I am reliving it all over again.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, songs can do that too, obviously. But on the flip side, and I know this, but I want to hear your take on it.
Mhm.
What do loved ones that are no longer with us, what did they say to the grieving families? What did they say to the ones that are are missing them?
The number one thing I get in sessions, to be honest with you, that I get from loved ones in spirit is them saying, I understand. Right.
Mm,
And they understand if you are angry, if you are sad, of course, right? If you're frustrated, the number one thing they say to me is that they understand. Right. And again, they are almost meeting you where you're at, right? They don't expect you to be this happy-go-lucky person. They want you to be in a place of peace and happiness, but they understand what you're feeling.
right. And I think that's so important. I think that we have to understand everyone that, you know, going through grief and moving into peace
Mhm.
is a day to day process.
Sometimes
And
minute by minute. Yeah.
right, exactly. And you're right, minute by minute. And I think that our loved ones, as you said, they want to meet us where they are. Are understanding, they're loving,
Yes.
and they want us to be happy, not snap out of it, be happy. They want us to be in that place that we can understand
Mhm.
that they're not suffering,
Yes.
that they're not in pain,
Mhm.
that they're not I'm just going to say this on my live. It's okay. That they're not like grandma's not that bitch that she always was, that
Exactly.
is completely shifted,
Yeah.
and that they're always looking through the scope of love. They're
Mhm.
coming from a different vibration. I think people forget that they're not in human form anymore,
Right.
that the soul or spirit form is completely different.
Mhm.
It resonates at a higher vibration. And I'm not trying to sound all woo woo, everybody, but the spirit form resonates at a higher vibration than we do at human form. Why do you think we're so heavy in our body? Because we're not light beings, right? It's trapped in here somewhere. We know it, right? But I think that that's an important piece.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, Sarah is a psychic medium. She's also a grief coach, grief counselor coach. What would you say?
I would say more coach. I'm not a mental health professional, so more of what I do is peer coaching, along
So
with life coaching almost, but yes.
grief coach and also I think it's important for people to know that you went through this process not that long ago,
Yes.
with your partner, and that is um it's horrific, and you've been through loss. How did you handle all that?
Yeah, so for those of you that are unfamiliar, I'm happy to kind of shortly explain. In April, it will be 2 years. In March and April, it will be 2 years. My partner and I suffered a horrific house fire. He was home, I was not, and he ended up passing away a month later. And that flipped my world upside down, obviously, right? And the number one thing that I kept saying to myself over and over again, which I almost wonder if it was my partner kind of sending this message to me, but the number one thing I said was, do not allow yourself to get stuck in this. And I would
Mm.
repeat that to myself like all day, every day. I'm not saying that's the healthiest method to move through things, but that's what I did. And I just kept reminding myself, do not get stuck in this. And I think a part of why I said that to myself, to be honest, is because when my partner was in the hospital, I said, don't get stuck in this. You don't stop here. Like keep fighting, keep fighting. And then I found myself telling myself that same message when everything happened. So
And that's important, and that's interesting that you said that. I didn't know that about your story.
yeah.
um when my mom passed, and for those of you that know, I'm an only child, and my dad passed the year after my mom, the day after her birthday. And when she went, my mom always used to tell me, she's like, never be afraid. She'd always say, because my mom, Greek Orthodox, so my mom used to say, never be afraid. God's always on your side.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes, and we're clarifying that. So she'd always say that never be never be afraid. God's always on your side. And that, I don't know why. She always said that you're never alone. And that has been stuck with me forever. When I have felt the loneliest of lonely, I always say, don't worry. We got this. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Even with the dogs, I always say, don't worry. We got this. We're not alone. Emmy says, my father came through the day after his funeral with a joke. I was very upset about something that happened after the funeral. He joked, which he did in life to ease my pain. See, I love that. I love that, Sarah. Thanks as well. Facebook user, I don't know who you are, but hello. Thanks for being here. Hi, Kelly. Good to see you here. Thanks for being here. And Sue, hello. And Christy, good to see you. Thanks for being here. So what would you say, Mikey says, my apologies for your loss. Even outside of grief of loss of loved ones, I understand grief regarding affected trauma or loss or innocence. I grow through what I go through. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Debbie says, do you still practice Greek Orthodox? I visited the church once and really loved it. I do. And here's the thing. This work has enhanced the work that I already do. It's enhanced my belief, and it's enhanced the practice, because I see more of a spiritual side than just go in church, kneel down, light the candle, stand up, say the prayer, kneel down, go get the bread and the wine, and then sit back down, do the sign of the cross, kneel down, do the sign of the cross, kneel down, do the sign of the cross. It's all part of it. And I'm understanding that there's always such beauty in each piece that I see, and especially with my parents. And here's the thing. I don't know if you've been, since I've been doing this work, going to a church amplifies it even more. Like just now I just said it, top of my head is all tingly. So I can go in, I go in and I feel a lot more than I normally do. So
it's interesting that you bring that up too, not to change the subject, but I was recently watching this show that has a lot to do with religion. And I was like, since I've really dove into this work, I haven't been back in a church, I don't think. So it's something I was contemplating today, actually. So it's interesting you brought that up.
And a friend of mine has said that she's like, church is wherever you want it to be. Yeah. Church is your heart. Yeah. And I think we forget that. Yeah. I think a friend of mine that we used to do retreats in Michigan, and she owned the retreat place. She said, I step outside and talk to God every day. She goes, this is my church. This nature is my church. And I just think that's awesome. I think we put labels on stuff. And again, guys, I don't want to get all, like religious here, but I think it's important to have the belief in the heart, whatever the heart says. Yeah. Let's see. Carson says, when you throw the muck of grief, when you go through the muck of grief, telling yourself to not be stuck totally resonates. A reminder to stay in the depression, a reminder not to stay in the depression, but get to the edge of it so that you can get to the silver lining. Very true. Very true. So in a session, you're hearing stuff and you're doing grief coaching. Are you telling them, if you're telling the person in front of you, which, guys, if you do this work, they're called the sitter. I just say the person in front of me or the client. Do you tell the client what you're hearing, or are you in coaching mode?
Yeah, so I predominantly kind of stay in coaching mode. I will pull in, I call them intuitive grief sessions, grief coaching sessions. So I'll pull in kind of the psychism side of things, and I'll, if anything is coming forward about the person I'm coaching, then I will share that. I'll share it, I incorporate my intuitive side, but I do like to keep the mediumship side kind of separate, because the grief coaching sessions are often, how can we help you to move through this in your day-to-day life, right? But I follow Spirit's lead. If Spirit starts to come through and feels that that is what's going to be for the highest good of the person, then I'll follow that, right? But predominantly I go in kind of keeping it just with the grief stuff and maybe pulling in some intuitive stuff as well.
So here's a question I haven't asked you, and this just popped in, and I know, I'm so sorry, Sarah. But,
it's devious.
It's us, so it's fine. I know people in our world say, well, when spirit comes through, what's your definition of that? What does it mean when they say, well, spirit told me this, or I'm hearing from spirit this? What does that word mean?
Like, do you mean like when people say spirit is coming through? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Like you're like, oh, and I heard spirit say this.
Right. So, couple of things. Number one, and I am guilty of this, I will have to say, right? Spirit coming through. Spirit is always around. It's just a matter of our awareness, right? Like spirit is always there. Spirit's always around. We just have to become aware of that. So really, they're not kind of coming through anywhere. They're already here. It's up to us to kind of see. But I am really big on the evidential piece as much as I can. Sometimes there just isn't evidence for something, but as much as I can, I try and back something up. So people can sometimes make claims of, oh, spirit said this, spirit said that. Well, how? You know what I mean? Like, what is there anything you want to share about that? And I mean that in like when it's kind of a random sense, not when you're fully in a reading with someone. But I'm really big on kind of validating and verifying that that is spirit saying that. That is your loved one saying that, right? But sometimes there is just a message that comes forward, and that happens.
And I think that's fascinating because, I will always say your loved one. And when I'm talking, so, we say spirit, but I'll always say your loved one.
Yeah.
And then when we say spirit in the big, so I always say like God, universe, spirit, whatever works for you. So I think these terms have been interwoven.
There's a lot of spiritual jargon out there. There is.
There's a lot of spiritual jargon. And I think that's kind of like, I'm always wanting to make sure that I'm heard properly, meaning that I don't want there to be confusion. So I'll always over explain it, then under explain it. So I'll say something like God, universe, spirit, whatever works for you. What I heard from your loved one in spirit is this. And I think what, you do this, I do this, several people that we know do this, Trish does this. I think it's really important to say to people, especially when they're grieving, to be really clear and say, ask the questions. Ask the questions like, what did you mean by this? Or I'm not understanding this. Or I can resonate with this, but could you tell me more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do. That's something it's funny you bring that up because I do often kind of try to incorporate that into my sessions as well, right? I let people know that a valid answer to give me is I need more information, right? Like I need more information about that, or I need that clarified. And then usually at the end, I always say, was there anything we touched on today that left you with more questions than answers, right? Because we can always loop back around if something isn't clear. So
true. Trish, 100%. Thank you. And Jeanette says, my husband passed unexpectedly 3 months ago. So sorry for your loss. May his memory be eternal in your heart. I'm having a hard time. I'm so glad I came across this. Thank you. So here's what, again, guys, we all teach things a little bit different. And Sarah and Trish will come in. We'll talk later about my 1-year program, but they're going to come in as guest teachers. But I want you guys to know that my belief is this, that when they leave, they go. And as they go, they're kind of in soul school for a while. They learn about not that they can't contact us, but they're learning that they're in spirit form. They're learning that they're doing what they did in their life and how that shifted and how that moved. And I know this is funny, but it's really true. Go watch the movie with Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks. And it's oh my god, I just totally forgot the title.
what it is.
Really good. It's not Heaven Can Wait. It's one of you guys knows it, and Delora, I'm sure you know it, or Carson, you know it. Somebody knows it. Nope, not Heaven Bound. That's not it. It's Meryl Streep, and I know Delora's going to start to look at it, but it's Meryl Streep, Albert Brooks, Defending Your Life. Way to go, Emmy. Good job. It's a great movie. defending your life.
I'll have to watch it.
Just take, oh, you'll have to watch it. There are bits and pieces of
Mhm.
that resonate to be true. And I will have to tell you that if you haven't read Dr. Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters, there's many clues and many beautiful things that the masters share about what happens on the
Mhm.
other side. So really good stuff.
Yeah, I was just reading Journey of Souls as well by Dr. Michael Newton, I think,
Oh,
which is
yeah. Mhm.
has been very informative as well.
Kelly says this, what do you think causes grief to become complicated, complex grief? What are your feelings? Where you are feeling the feelings, but you seem not to be able to move through it? Yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, when it comes to complicated grief or complex grief, that's where we aren't really able to move through it, right? We're talking about not being able to kind of socialize, get back to daily life, getting back to our hobbies, maybe not having the best health habits, right? When it comes to what causes that, honestly, I feel as though everyone is different. I think I often say that, like, with grief, it changes us. And I think partially we have a choice in kind of how that change happens, partially, right? But when it comes to grief, I mean, that's your mental health, right? Everyone's brain chemistry is different, everyone's loss is different. And at the end of the day, what I would say is always reach out to a mental health professional and know that there is nothing to be ashamed of if you feel stuck in your grief. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean, you're not doing enough for yourself. I think it just happens. Everyone is different again. And I don't know if there's necessarily one specific thing that I would say causes it, at least with the information that I currently have.
Right. And let's bring up this too. Grief doesn't always have to be a loss of someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grief can be obviously a loss of a pet, but it also can be a loss of self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to really point out, that we have these things that we are not addressing or not ready or have the tools to address because we're in this state of flux or in this state of I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny for me, I remember very clearly, and I'm going to go to this question next. I remember that I had a fight with my ex of 12 years, not the one that I married, but the one prior to that. Had a big fight, and it was after my dad died. And my mom and dad were both obviously at the cemetery. We all know that they're not there, but at the cemetery, their bodies were at the cemetery, and it was not far from the house. So I drove about 15 minutes to the cemetery, and I sat there and I had a Steel Magnolias moment where I was pounding on my fist on the grass, and I just like, why did you leave me? Just know why.
Yeah.
And what I heard was, so you could grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I was 36 when my dad died. And there was a part of me that felt like I was 21 or 18 at that point. And I'm like, I wasn't ready yet. And I remember saying, just guide me. Just guide me. And I think that's why I always have them in my office over my shoulder. So whenever I'm on a Zoom and I need to, I just see them over my shoulder, and that just always helps me. Facebook user says, I had a tough reading shortly after I lost my mom. The message was negative. We're going to talk about that in a second. How long do you recommend waiting to have a reading after a loss? So a reading should always leave you positive and with a beautiful, heartfelt feeling. It should never leave you negative. That is the person that is doing the reading for you not being fully in their authenticity, or they're just off that day. It should never be negative. And what do you feel?
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I think, a reading should leave you, better off than you came is kind of what I normally say. Like, I should leave you better off than how you came to me. And, when it comes to negative messages, I can say that, I've never had a spirit person come forward and, a loved one come forward and say something negative, mean, or nasty to the person I'm reading for, right? I think that kind of comes from the medium's own internal bias. When it comes to how long you should wait until getting a reading, I always say wait at least 30 days if you can. This is my personal opinion, just because you want to protect your grief journey and you want to protect your mental health. It is not uncommon that sometimes if people get a reading too soon, that they feel as though they need to rely on getting readings to connect to their loved ones or to feel close to them, and they won't fully heal through that loss because they are still relying on that connection. Reading addiction is a real thing. So I always say wait as much as you can, and wait until you're at a place of acceptance, if you can, with that grief.
And people like John Holland and people like Lisa Williams, I've heard them both say wait 3 months. I say at least till they're done with soul school, and depending, checking in with you, because let me tell everyone, and I know Sarah will agree with me, the person that can read your loved one the most is you. You have the closest connection to them than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And what stopped me from getting messages, and I waited a year for my mom, and I do this work and I got nothing. I would dismiss her in my dreams. Is the feeling of guilt or anger will stop you from being open to hearing the whispers that they are giving you, the signs that they are giving you. Just PlayStation said, I lost my 24-year-old son in a tragic car accident in September. So sorry for you. And I shouldn't say I'm so sorry for you. I'm sorry for your loss. And that is just horrible to lose a child. So prayers to you. It's definitely a grief I've never experienced. Let me share something with you. Hang on one second. I want to make sure that I don't disturb. God forbid I disturb the dogs. It's a great book. And she also lost her 19-year-old, and it's called Shattered Together. It is by Kathleen L., A Mother's Journey from Grief to Belief, a guide to help you through sudden loss. And this is her broken heart. But when you tilt it, that's the profile of her son. This is a great, I know, isn't that, it's just beautiful. Yeah. And she does grief retreats. Yeah. So her name is, there she is, Kathleen L. And she's going to be on my podcast coming up soon. And she'll also be on a live in April. So on April. So thank you again. And please know that it's a great book. And again, prayers to you. Okay, let's see. Brooke says, Elias, my experiencing losing my daughter was almost exactly the same as yours. Instead of grow up, it was her saying you can, I can't. Crazy how similar. Yeah, just it's crazy. Grief can also bring about an enormous awakening of your soul and your earthly existence. It can dissipate your previous self and bring forward a completely new person that you yourself didn't know. Very true, Margie. Very true.
Absolutely.
Very true. I'm so glad that we're having this talk, guys. Really, truly. Is there a difference between grief of loss of a loved one and grief of loss of innocence regarding trauma?
Yeah, I mean, I say often that grief is grief, right? I talk about you can grieve an old version of yourself. You can grieve a physical location. You can grieve a pet. You can grieve a person, whatever it is, right? Grieving loss of innocence, like you mentioned. Grief is grief. It might be different in the way that you move through it, or the way that you come to understand your grief, or come to understand how to heal through it. It may differ a little bit in that way, but grief is grief, in my opinion.
So true. And I would agree with you 100%. 100%. Thanks, Delora. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And yes, haven't announced this fully yet, but yes, I found that out the other day. So I'm excited. We can announce that bigger when she's on. So we'll talk about that a little later, everybody. Now, what do you see? Or let me change that. For you personally, how did you move through a lighter stage of your grief? How did you like, I can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah. For me, it was a couple of things. I kind of, when I was able to, I kind of attacked my grief head on in a multitude of ways. So I did things at home and I journaled and I did a lot of meditation and I had the spiritual approach to my grief. I got a lot of Reiki sessions done, a lot of energy work done, if anyone is familiar. I also went to traditional talk therapy and kind of incorporated the more mundane, non-magical things into my healing. But overall, kind of overarching everything for me was community. I mean, one of the first things, day one that I did was I got on the internet and said, somebody has to understand what I'm feeling. I can't be the only person in the world that knows what this feels like. And I started to find my people, you being one of them. I found you in, I think, the first week of my grief. And over time, that is kind of really what made me see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it really did make me feel lighter, finding my tribe, finding my people. It helped a ton.
And that, you guys, is so important. I can't emphasize enough how important it is. Don't do this alone.
Yeah.
Not do this alone. We are stronger when we're in community. And yes, we try as best as we can. I know the people on here, we try the best as we can to be non-judging. We really do. And I think it's when people come together and say, I see you, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing. And sometimes, I don't know about for you, but sometimes I just needed to be heard. I didn't need to be told what to do. I just needed to have a voice
Yeah,
to be able to be heard, or I needed a hand just to hold.
absolutely.
And that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. I just wanted someone to just be there and say, I see you, I hear you, I got you. And that's why I know for you, I know for Trish, I know for the people that we've mentioned, Kathleen, and so many of us, I know that what we do is we believe in educating, we believe in allowing people to get in touch with their hearts.
Yeah.
And I think that if we are here holding space for one another, that is the beauty and that is a gift in itself. I don't think there's many communities that can hold space and say, I got this, and we're here for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and I want to add too, just because I brought this up about, therapy and Reiki sessions and energy work. And I think sometimes there can be a cost barrier to healing, or people assume that there is, therapy, Reiki, all of that, it costs money. It does, right? So what I want to say is, although I might have went that route, you don't have to, right? And community most often is free. If anything, it's low cost, right? So please do not underestimate those free and low cost resources that are either in person or on the internet. Of course, go to therapy if you feel that is something you would benefit from. But I want to touch on that sometimes it's not about the big expensive things,
right,
in order to heal.
And gather the tools, everybody, that you need. Gather the tools from Sarah, from myself, from Trish, from all the people that you are watching, and then pull those tools together, and then you have a toolbox that resonates with you, that you will pick and choose. What we each say, something I say might not resonate with you, but Sarah says it in a different way that resonates with you. Take that piece and use what you can, because your loved ones are wanting you to heal.
Yes.
They're wanting you to heal. And it's so important. Carson says, I dove in headfirst without money and without community or therapy, but eventually ended up in therapy and finally found this community. So thankful. Lovely. Lovely. Just PlayStation Game says, yes, I keep feeling that I need to use my voice and express and help people understand. real raw emotions as I kept asking people if this was normal in grief and what stage I'm at. And here's what I want to say, guys. The loss of my parents has moved me in a way that I didn't know that I needed to teach about what that was like or share my story. I didn't think my story was important. I didn't think it was like, well, it's just like everybody else. But I think in the sharing, we learn. And I think that, things happen for us so we can move into a way of helping others. And our words can just change somebody and give them that aha. And then they will be able to give somebody else that aha.
Absolutely.
You're going to say something. Go ahead.
I was going to say something.
Oh, I thought you were.
Well, actually, I can. I did have something that I wanted to touch on, actually. Someone, I can't remember who it was in the chat, but someone mentioned, what stage am I at in terms of grief? And I just want to touch on something. I just did an in-depth post about this on our Patreon page. For anyone who finds themselves hearing about the 5 stages of grief or the stages of grief overall, if you find them to be helpful for understanding your grief, love that. Please continue to use it. But it's important to mention that the 5 stages of grief were created by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and they were actually created to help understand those patients in the hospital who were terminally ill and got a terminally ill diagnosis and the grief that they went through when they got the terminal diagnosis. And it was meant to be applied to those patients. So what I want to say, if the 5 stages of grief work for you, I love that. Please keep using it. But if you find that you're not aligning with those 5 stages of grief, and it's confusing you, or you feel like something's wrong, nothing's wrong. It wasn't necessarily meant to be applied to loss of a loved one, friend, family member. Anyways, it was meant to be applied to those who were terminally ill. So I just want to touch on that really quick.
That's great. That's good. That's good. Carson says, Sarah, how did you get past the vulnerability that comes with telling your story?
It's a good question. I don't know if I necessarily have a straightforward answer. This is what I'm going to say. It's a woo-woo answer, so sorry. But I very much felt like it was my partner in spirit that pushed me and gave me the courage to do that. And I wasn't even aware of it at the time. I still have moments, though, where I'm like, I would like to share this, but I don't know. Like, it's a little personal, and I would have to be a little vulnerable. So I do have days, where I don't share as much, or I'm not comfortable with doing so. But I really do believe it was my partner that kind of gave me the courage to do that. And know that your loved ones absolutely do the same, right? So.
And I agree with you. I really believe that it was my mom and dad. I really believe it. Now, my mom and dad, if they were alive, they're like, don't share. If they were alive, it's like, you don't share that kind of information with the world.
Yeah, my partner would have said the same thing. Like, what are you doing telling our business?
Right, exactly. And but I have to say that Just PlayStation Games says, I don't listen to the stages. I feel everyone is different and you have to find your own way. Absolutely. So true. Whatever works for you. Margie says, I heard a message yesterday that grief is not a stage, as it doesn't end. Grief is a cycle rather than a stage. Very important. Very true. Very, very true.
Absolutely.
Yes, my son is pushing you and pushing me. Yes, I would agree with that. I agree with that. I have to tell you that, losing my mom was the hardest thing ever. And some of you know the story, some of you don't. The day that it was my mom's wake, the morning of the wake, I get a phone call that says, Mr. Patras. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, he's not here, meaning my dad. And they said, Elias Patras. I mean, yes. It was like 6:30 in the morning. They're like, this is blah, blah nursing home. We are rushing your dad to the hospital. He's bleeding internally. I had to go to the hospital the day of my mom's wake, watch my dad in ICU, and leave at 1:00 so I could stand at the casket up by myself, because nobody knew in the family that I was gay and had a relationship. So I stood at the casket and everyone's like, where's your father? Where's your father? Where's your father? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So to repeat that story over. And then after the wake, rush back to the hospital to still watch my dad. And let me tell you, I believe that God, universe, and spirit's like, your dad can't take this. He can't handle it. We're holding him here in limbo for a moment. Not limbo, guys, like the Catholic limbo. Just, just keeping him quiet. We're keeping him here. 3 days after the funeral, he was fine. Like nothing happened. And that was the hardest thing that I had to go through. But I'm telling you, the signs and the symbols and everything was there. My mom's favorite bird was a robin. I know that sounds crazy, but she loved robins. I remember when we moved from the south side of Chicago to the north side, and she said, "Honey, look, the robin from the south side follow us." I'm like, "Mom, it's a robin." She's like, "Really? A robin? A robin with the eyebrow up thing? Really? The robin that has a scratch on its chest followed us." And I'm like, "Okay." Do you know that when everybody was putting the flowers on top of the coffin, I looked up, there were 12 robins in a circle all around us. I was like, what is happening? What is happening?
That's
So
amazing.
it's amazing. I know, it's just I really think, guys, if we stop, no matter where we are in our grief, they are constantly trying to get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Let us know that they're good and they're behind us 100%.
I agree.
100%. So, anybody have any questions? And hello to everybody. Hello to everybody. Angie says, I do believe that my partner sends me so many signs. Yeah, so true. So true. And it's funny because I could hear my mom, and I'm making a joke here. I could see my mom saying, because my mom's birthday was July 14th, and she's like, it's my day. And she always put her hand on her, it's my day. You're not going to do anything to ruin my day. It's my day, my only day. And I'm like, and there's Mother's Day. That's your whole day. I didn't say that. But I could just hear my mom say, no, to my dad, you are not dying on July 14th. It's my day. You can die the next day. And he did.
Oh my gosh.
He passed away. And it's funny because my mom's birthday is the 14th. My dad passed away on the 15th. My mom's name's day, her saint's day, is the 17th. And my name's day is the 20th. So I know that my dad chose that week.
Yeah.
So it just
Absolutely.
fascinating to me. Fascinating. What do you have going on? You've got a couple things going on.
Yeah, a couple different things going on. Number one, we have been doing a lot of work over on my Patreon page. You can find it on my website. My website is linked right here. There's a whole page dedicated to it if you want to find out more about what that is. But we have the Bluebird family community over there where we are working on spiritual development. There's some healing stuff on there. There's a lot of grief tools that I post. There's journal prompts. And for those of you who don't like journaling, we talk about different journaling forms. So if you're like, I hate journaling, I get it, I understand. So doing a lot of great stuff over on the Patreon that I'm really excited about. It's been really fun. So I recommend just checking that out. And what else is going on? I have a giveaway going on right now if anybody is interested. If you book an intuitive guidance session between today's date and March 1st, you will be automatically entered to win an evidential mediumship session. You can book that for any date, but as long as it's purchased before March 1st, you're entered to win the evidential mediumship session. And I just ask that please don't book a session if you feel like you don't need it, just for the giveaway. Please only, come if you're ready to work. That's what I like to say. So
that's awesome. And you have a special code or something, right?
I do. Yeah, I also have a special code. It is Spirit, all caps, 30. And that can be applied for any type of session, but feel free to apply that to the intuitive guidance session if you're interested in being entered into the giveaway. And it's Spirit 30, all caps, and it's 30.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I just want to read these two. Thank you, Delora. Yes, there it is, guys. Sarah-Bluebirdreadings.com. Ryan Jeff says a dear friend passed in 2020. Several months later, his spirit self appeared in a classroom that he used to teach in. I was a student in that room when his spirit showed up, but no one else saw him. I just think that's awesome. That
is awesome.
Cool. I was freaked out, but glad to see him. No one else saw him. I hope he wasn't mad at me for having to walk away. It was intense. No, they're
Yeah.
not mad. They're
Yeah.
just like, hey there. And then, like, that's why we're like, boom, eek, that kind of thing. So it's all good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys, I've been doing this work for years. And I remember I felt like my mom and dad were in the room and I could see like a shadowy outline that would have been my mom's profile and my dad's profile. Do you know that I had the covers up to here? And I was like, it's your parents, dumbass. It's your parents. What are you doing? Oh my God. I could hear my heartbeat like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, it's your parents. Chill out. See, too many scary movies that I've watched. So I had to talk myself down. And then I'm like, all right, I'm good with this. And of course, gone. So I'm like, ugh.
It's funny it's still in there sometimes, right? My mom says that a lot. She tells me that she tells our family members at night, don't be afraid to come visit me, but don't show yourself to me because I'm going to be scared crapless. So
I used to, when I first started, I would see that. I could see them like I'm seeing you.
Yeah, same.
But then I said, no, guys, we need to tune this down. I would rather see you in here than see you here. And I just made that switch. Let's see. When I try and tell my story of grief and the trauma, I feel like it's way too much for anyone to hear or burden on, even to counselors. Why do I feel this? That's a really good question. Really interesting statement. So I used to feel that way too. And I would say, until you're ready not to say it, I would say that this is what I'm feeling, and I hope it doesn't upset you or feel too much. If it is too much, let me know. And that way you're stating, you're being open and honest, right? The other thing that I would say when you're ready to say is, this is my story, and I like to share it with you. Yeah. Simple. How about for you? What would you say?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think especially when it comes to someone like a counselor, I think it's totally okay to say, hey, I would love to share more, but this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I'm too much. How can we get past that, right? Be open and honest, just kind of like Elias said, be open and honest about how you're feeling. I know that can be tough, but I think you recognizing that this is happening or that this is what you're feeling is crucial, and that's amazing right off the bat. And I think it's totally okay to say, hey, I'd love to share more, but this is how I feel. How can we move past that?
I'm too much of an empath and don't want to put my energies on others. So I'm going to say to you this. Number one, and I say this with love, don't assume that. Don't assume that. Just know that as an empath, you're picking up so much. So here's the thing that I'm going to say. Observe, but don't absorb. Blow it out. Observe, but don't absorb. And get a Amazonite. Get an Amazonite. This is really good for anxiety, really good for just having it with you. Like my 4 go-tos are black tourmaline, hematite, rose quartz, and Amazonite. Those are really good. Rachel's like, I can hear you coming in from the next couple dimensions. That's good enough for me. You're welcome. Now, I want to do something before Sarah goes. And Sarah, you're going to tell me when, in a second, I'm going to put the little cursor all the way to the top. Now, besides Mikey, do we have anybody else from Chicago? If we do, if you've had Garrett's caramel popcorn, it's really good. But we have something that's even better. We have something that is top popcorn, gourmet popcorn. It is the bomb. They have 5 different flavors. There's caramel corn, there's cheese, which is cheese and caramel corn. Doesn't leave your fingers orangey. And there is also tropical, which is pineapple and coconut. There's lava, which is spicy. And there's Will Hunting, which is apple cider. All good stuff. Okay. So I'm going to spin the wheel, and one of you guys is going to win a bag of top popcorn, gourmet popcorn. It is delicious. It is so good. Okay, you ready? You're going to tell me when to stop.
Oh
So
boy. Okay.
I'm going to look away and I'm going to do my scrolling, and then I'll just say stop. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and go.
Stop.
Stop. Oh,
Was I not supposed to say it that time?
no, you did. You did. Rachel Elizabeth, you won top popcorn, gourmet popcorn.
Woo.
And Michelle is on here. And Michelle, if you're on here, I can get her information because I have it. Or, or if you want to contact her directly, it's totally up to you. So we love at Top Popcorn. Guess what? Deborah, why so sad? Why so sad, Deborah?
Rachel doesn't like it. You can send it to me.
Oh, look at her. Oh, wow. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, you're welcome. Guess what? So sad, Deborah, because you wanted the caramel popcorn. Is that it? Look at everyone who knows me. They're like, you have to sing the song. Scrolling. Keep your body moving, right? Someone's gonna be a winner, and not for a chicken dinner. Okay. So I'm guessing, Deborah, you'll have to fight Steve for it. So I'm guessing, Deborah, did you want to win the caramel corn? Was that it? You can put it on there. It's okay, Deborah. Just say you wanted to. Because guess what, Deborah? I'm going to give you from me. I'll tell Michelle, top popcorn gourmet pop, that we're going to send you a bag as well. Okay, we'll send you a bag as well, Deborah. So there you have it. Okay, we got our two winners. Well, Sarah, you're always welcome to come here anytime you want to.
Thank you.
Anytime you got something going on. And oh, hang on. Tina says, hi, Tina. My dad passed last March and I jumped up in last week. He gave me a hug and pushed my face into his neck so I can smell his cologne. Oh, I love that.
That's beautiful.
As he pulled away, I woke up and could still smell him for about 10, 15 minutes afterwards. Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. Love that. Love that. All right, everyone. I appreciate being here. A couple of announcements. Tomorrow we have on here and on Facebook. Well, Facebook, we're on Facebook. Duh. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We are doing the full moon meditation at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock Mountain or Emmy time, 8 o'clock Central, and 9 o'clock Eastern. So come back tomorrow for full moon meditation. On TikTok, if you follow me on TikTok, at 4:30, we're doing Spirit Psychic Popcorn, 4:30 Pacific time, which is 5:30 Emmy time, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. And we've got a couple other things coming up, like this. Guys, do you want to go on a wellness retreat? It's at beautiful Skamania. I'm telling you, go to skamania.com retreat. It's also on my event page, but this is all about rebalancing yourself. It's really about de-stressing and discovering your life in harmony. Come to this. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. We've got some other things coming up. I would say the best thing for you to do is get on my website and sign up for the email. I don't send more than 2 unless there's something that I'm told to send out because I have to promote it more. And I apologize for that in advance, but I try not to send more than 2 and usually I only send on 1. So join me on the email list. It really does help. It helps because when a producer or a production event special person always wants to know how many people are on your email. It's the first thing. They don't care so much as social media. They still do, but they're like, how many people on your email list? So I appreciate that. You're praying for an Ohio retreat. It's in the works. Great live. Thank you, Trish. And please follow our friend Trish Rain Readings on the TikTok.
And Trish will actually be on my live tomorrow night on TikTok, actually.
Yes.
Yes. Thought I'd mention it.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. And then I have to say, this starts Wednesday. We're doing an intuitive circle group, 90 minutes on Zoom, once a month, psychic development, mediumship development, and personal development. You cannot do this work unless you work on you. Really important, guys. And generally, it meets the fourth Wednesday monthly. We'll have a private Facebook group, and we also are having 4 extra classes for practice. So it'll be a lot of fun. And Trish and Sarah will be guest teachers coming on. And on Wednesday, we're going to have Laura Wusta. Laura Wusta will be on talking about what does it mean to sit in the power? What does it mean to sit in the power? So again, Sarah, thank you so much. You can go find Sarah at right there, www.sarah-bluebirdreadings.com. And as always, guys, thank you for being here. We are here to connect. And when you connect, we educate. And we educate, we grow. There is unity in community from our hearts to yours. Be well, everybody. Have a beautiful night. Thanks so much.
See ya.